Buzz on veterans. I'm wrong. Different show. Starting all over. All right, you ready, Jackson? Welcome to the 5-minute salute. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and I'm lucky to be start all over. Word sandwich. Got another 10 minutes, right? Oh. Welcome to the 5-minute salute. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and I am joined virtually with HIB McNeily with GDIT. HIB, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Chris. Good to see you.
It's always great to see you. Like I said with this interview, it's going to be easier than Afghanistan. I'm sure it will end well.
So that's kind of a trick question because we all know how that ended. Our rotation was pretty awesome, right? We had as far as, operational / combat deployments, now that I think about it, that was not a bad way to finish up.
No, thank you. Number one, thank you for your service. And then, hey, so HIB, easy question for you. Where are you from? What you did in the military? Tell us about your red leg time and what's a red leg. And then what are you doing in your post-military career with GDIT?
Yeah, sure. So it's really an odd story now that I think about it, because in the military, we're all born and raised someplace, and then your family's from somewhere else. So I was born in New York. I kind of grew up near West Point. But now I live in Northern Virginia by virtue of, last duty assignment was the basement of the Pentagon. And, wife and I made some strategic, operational, and tactical decisions that this was it. And we live in McLean and loving it. It's really kind of a center sector for us is, in-laws and my parents live at, 2 different locations, one in Florida and then one out the beach in Delaware.
Awesome. Yeah, and so you're an artilleryman. You did that for a number of decades, and then you chose in your post-military career to venture out and work in the military-industrial complex. So what's that adventure been like?
Yeah, so it's actually been absolutely fantastic, and, kind of left that portion out there on the initial intro. So I was field artillery and did nothing but light infantry and striker organizations other than a time when I taught at West Point. And then after battalion command where, you were up in, Kandahar proper, I was down there at the edge of the Republic in Spin Boldak. I ended up in the Pentagon and I became the Pakistan-Afghanistan division chief in what was the formal Afghanistan cell, and then became T2C2, the Trans-Regional Threats Cell that dealt with Syria and the ISIS fight, working for some really neat folks. And that job there, and just kind of what I used to do in the military kind of got me into where I am now within General Dynamics. So when you look at guys like us, Chris, and even Eric Lopez too. I mean, watching his show, I was just like, God, that guy is awesome. Love that dude. We commanded together. And, maneuver, fire, and effects guys, in this area up here, there is actually a ton of things you can do. It's like some people say, well, what are you going to do after this? You're just good for digging ditches or whatever. I mean, that is not true. There are serious government things and Army things that we can do. You can be on a contract or you can work within corporate. And, the Army still trains, right? And so does every other service. And there is a whole training and services industry out here. You're an intel person, like the mecca for intelligence is kind of right here in McLean, Virginia, right?
Yep.
And it's not just folks that are in the active duty military suit uniform, but there's also all the DA civilians, DOD civilians. It's the agency folks. I mean, there is just a ton of work out here. There is a future for folks that aren't necessarily signaliers or intelligence folks, out there in industry. And frankly, that's kind of how I got wrapped into landing at General Dynamics Information Technology. When you start doing your homework, you find out that there are these companies that do things like JRTC readiness support contracts, the National Training Center support contracts. And GDIT, we are probably, industry leaders in mission training complex support. Currently running 18th Airborne Corps, the Multinational Sim Center Indo-Pacific, which is all of the ones out in the Pacific, and we just won 3 Corps. And I work with a industry giant in that respect, with our senior vice president that does that. And, it's just phenomenal work. You are still involved in what the Army and the military is doing. And often it, bleeds over into the joint force.
That's huge.
I mean, there's just a ton to do.
Yeah, so I guess, some golden nuggets coming out of there is obviously do your research on the organizations out there, probably what you as your passion in uniform, sometimes directly can correspond to your post-military career. And I guess a third bucket in there, you kind of mentioned it there, is also your networking. So taking a look at that organization that you may be interested in, or just talking to folks in your network saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Here's what I don't want to do. Where do you think there might be a place for me? In your case, General Dynamics, such a large organization and the services you're providing, if you're not going to be the warfighter, you're supporting the warfighter, no doubt there's some feeling of accomplishment by doing your job, so no doubt. So what's your last bit of advice for those getting ready to transition out of the military in the civilian sector that they should do beyond, network and then do your research as they prepare to exit the uniform?
Yeah, Chris, that's probably, I know you ask that a lot. And so I had my annual physical last week, and it went okay. I'm going to be totally honest. But I will tell you right now, don't get out of shape. As my Navy lieutenant told me, don't get fat, sir. So you got one thing left. I mean, we have our families, you've got all of that, but your health is something you can't let it get out away from you.
Yep.
Because it just gets harder and harder to recover. So I would tell you, those last couple months, you really have to make sure. And Chris, I know we talked about this. I think it was AUSA. I was like, dude, you have to make sure all your benefits, veterans package, your pay is 100% complete the day you walk out of that office and you get your DD 214 in hand. Because after that, man, you can always come back to it. It's incredibly difficult to get those things adjusted. And so your health is tier one thing to take care of. And I will be honest with you, because GDIT, our company is so awesome. Our thing is, it's a company with a soul, and it's about people. And we just had 50 some veterans over about 2 or 3 weeks ago where we were talking to them. And people like me, you're going to get called from companies because your last gig, I was doing things within deputy director at Middle East on the joint staff. I got called by Booz Allen, and I'm not plugging for them, but, Booz Allen had contracts globally. I mean, there are so many things to do out there. There will be people looking for you, not just because of what your rank, but it's where you had worked last. Yeah. And they go out and they do their homework. So, you will get something eventually, but that health thing, and for duration of after you get out, you have to maintain that because, you only get so many days, right? You have to stay healthy.
Well, HIB, hey, first of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, thanks for coming on the show.
You too,
really appreciate what you're doing out there, and no doubt making an impact to our force. And the turbulent times that are occurring here globally, it matters. So again, good to see you. Look forward to seeing you in the future. Hey, folks, if you like what you heard, follow us on LinkedIn. Hey, thanks to Operation Barnabas for what they're doing for veterans that need a hand up and not a handout. Take a look at them, operationbarnabas.com, and I'll see you at our next one. Operation Barnabas is a veterans ministry. Started in 2017.
with the purpose of helping our veterans that kind of got left behind.
These people went over and went to war for us, and a lot of their friends didn't come back, and that's a lot of the stuff that we as veterans deal with is there's a lot of people that didn't make it back, and then it's like, why are we here? So and then they isolate,
and they've struggled with addictions, PTSD, suicidal thoughts, those kind of things, helping them get whole again through one-to-one mentorship.
So being able to communicate with them and help them can drastically change their life, can drastically change a family's life. The little that we can do is put our hand out and say, hey, do you want a hand up? Like, we're not giving a hand out. Do you want a hand up? And just be able to be there with them and do life with them and just be able to help them, because, man, they put their life on the line for you and me.